Hey, welcome back. Today we're going to be going over conditional functions, specifically COUNTIF, SUMIF, and AVERAGEIF functions. Alright, so here I have a little bit of data already set up for me. Here we have a transaction history. So let's say that we recorded our expenses throughout the whole year, and we have this big table. We didn't do it in order though. Alright, so we have each month, the item we purchased, and the price at which we purchased it in this for our transaction history. And today we want to sum up a couple of these items. We want to know the number of transactions according to the item, the total sales according to that item, and the average sales according to that item. And here we have these 6 items that we recorded in our transaction history. Alright, so the first box we want to fill out is the number of transactions for food. So essentially we want to know how many times we purchase food in our transaction history. So we'll want to use a COUNTIF function. So we'll COUNTIF, tab that. And what it's asking for is it wants a range and then a criteria. Alright, so we'll select this range because this is the range in which these items are located. So we'll hit Control-Shift down arrow and that'll highlight all of them. We'll also want to lock these cells by hitting FN4, which essentially puts a $sign in front of each row and column in this formula. And that'll lock these cells, which we'll talk about a little bit later, but it's critically important as we move on. Alright, then we're going to hit comma, and we're going to want to choose the item. So we're going to want to choose cell F4 where it's labeled food, and then we're going to hit enter. So there are 20 transactions throughout this whole period or this whole year that we accounted for buying food 20 times. And then since we locked this, what that basically means is that regardless of if we copy or paste the formula, this range will stay the same and it won't change. Alright? So because we locked that, we can hit we can double click there and it'll fill in the rest of these columns for us. And as you'll notice, if I click on the formula, this F function, before it was F4, it has changed to F7 to correspond with the appropriate item. So that way we have our number of transactions ready to go. Alright, so for total sales, we want to do a SUMIF function. And we're going to want to select the same range. And we're going to want to lock that. And then it's asking for our criteria and then a sum range. So our criteria will be the same, cell F4, so we want to know food, how much we spent on food. And then the sum range, well, we want it to, out of all the items that are food, we want it to sum this range. Here, we want to know the price. And we'll go ahead and lock that as well. Hit enter, double click. Let's convert that into currency. We can leave the decimal. And this is how much we spent on each item. So we spent a total of $8,379.87 for the year. Pretty cheap spending habits, if I don't say so myself. Alright, so now let's do the average sales per item. So we'll do an AVERAGEIF function. Go ahead and find that. And it wants a range, a criteria, and an average range similar to the SUMIF function. So we'll go ahead and select the same range. Go ahead and lock that. The criteria will be the same. Then we'll go ahead and do an average range, which will be the same range as we did before. Go ahead and lock that. Enter. And there we have our averages. Let's go ahead and change that to dollars. There we have our average sales per item. So in summary, what we just did is we found out how many times we purchased food, cars, gas, rent, vacation, right? This applies to all. The total amount we spent on each of these particular items, and the average sale per transaction we had for each item. Alright, so let's do the same thing, except instead of wanting to know our total sales, transactions, and average sales per item, we want to know that per month. So we can do the same thing. So I'll go over this a little bit faster. If you downloaded the Excel sheet, then you can kind of do it on your own, and then check your data with mine to make sure that you did it properly, but I'll kind of go a little bit faster here. So let's do another COUNTIF function. We want this to be the range, lock it, and then the criteria will be this F13. Go ahead and carry that down. Then we're going to want to do the total sales SUMIF, and the range will be this, lock that, criteria will be this, and the range will be that, lock it, and copy it down. So we should have a total of $8,379. So we're doing it right so far. Go back to average if. The range again will be this, and the criteria will be that. Price will be this range. Lock it, and drag that down. Alright, so here we have it. So if you're just following along or copying the spreadsheet, make sure you know how to do this properly. This is just a simple way of doing COUNTIF, SUMIF, and AVERAGEIF functions. It can get a lot more complicated and more complex, and obviously you don't have to use these functions if you're just tracking transaction history for your spending habits. Say you run a business, you could change these to be, instead of your expenses, this is your revenue you're taking in, and so on. So there's many different applications to these functions, but this is just kind of a brief run through of the concept of them. So hopefully you enjoyed and learned something new. Let me know if there was anything that was a little bit confusing or I went over too fast. Go ahead and leave a comment, hit that like button, and let me know if there's any future videos you'd like me to do. Alright, thanks guys, have a good one.